Hey, what's up guys? It's me here. And man, do I have a story for you. So last week, I posted a video where I revealed that I lost $10,000 in a matter of one day due to investing in something called the Luna. And ever since then, I've been getting hundreds and hundreds of comments asking me what exactly happened, why I made this investment, and what it is that I learned from all of this. So, in today's video, I thought it would be worthwhile to share some insight into what exactly happened with my $10,000 investment. How I was able to lose so much money in such a short period of time, and most importantly, what it is that I learned so that this never happens again. Before we start, just want to make it clear that no one forced me to buy into this. This was completely my own decision. I saw an opportunity. I liked what I saw. I did my research, and then I took the plunge. However, when I bought in, I didn't know that it was going to go down by 99%. So let's talk about what I learned after losing $10,000 in one bad investment. First, it helps to understand what exactly happened and how I ended up losing so much money in the first place. The Luna cryptocurrency was an investment that was designed to do two things. No. 1. Track the value of the moon. And no! 2. Provide algorithmic stability to its price. At launch, one Luna coin was worth $1, but as the crypto market grew, so did the price of the Luna coin until it hit a high of over $100 per token. That means if you bought in at the beginning and sold at the top, you could have made a 100x return, or 10,000% profit. That's an insane return on any investment. And many people began buying in, not realizing that the price would soon come crashing back down to earth. The problem with an algorithm-based cryptocurrency is that it relies on a perfectly functioning program to maintain its value. But as we found out earlier this month, one small error in code can cause the entire thing to collapse and send the value plummeting to zero. Within the span of just 72 hours, the price went from around $85 down to less than a penny, making it almost worthless. And to put into perspective how bad that is, imagine buying Bitcoin right before it hits $64,000. Now, in terms of what caused this to happen, the founder admitted that there were several contributing factors, like an increase in trading volume, higher volatility in the market, and third parties taking advantage of the system. However, he does take full responsibility and claims that he should have been more involved in managing the project. Regardless, though, that does bring me back the $10,000 that I lost, and it does unhelp me move on. So instead, I focused on what I could learn from this experience and how I could use this moving forward so that this never happens again. And that leads me to my biggest takeaway. Never invest more than you can afford to lose. That might seem obvious for some, but for others, it is really easy to get swept up in the moment and to believe that this could be the greatest opportunity of your life. For me, that was absolutely true, because in a way, this ended up being the best thing that could have happened to me. Don't get me wrong. I would obviously prefer to keep the $10,000 that I invested, but as cliche as it sounds, losing this money opened my eyes to what I am truly capable of and allowed me to bounce back even stronger than before. To be honest, I could have saved a lot of myself and my family for years with that $10,000. But instead, I chose to invest it all in a risky new crypto coin that ended up being worth next to nothing. Now, hindsight is always 20/20ths, but I genuinely believed that this was a safe bet. And if I didn't, I wouldn't have put all of my money into it. Unfortunately, that's the reality of the situation. And it's a reality that many others are experiencing right now, too. If you just so happen to invest your savings into the stock market at the peak before everything started dropping, you'd probably be feeling pretty bad about yourself right now. The same goes for real estate, for bonds, for almost anything that you can possibly invest in. The truth is, if you put your money into anything and it drops in value, you're going to feel terrible. And if you put all of your money into it and it drops in value, you're going to feel a lot worse. That's why the best practice is to never invest more than you can afford to lose. Of course, that doesn't mean you shouldn't invest or take risks. It's just important to recognize that the greater the potential reward, the greater the potential risk. Second, never trust the word of a CEO without doing your own research. Now, I'm not trying to throw anyone under the bus here. In fact, I think that's important to say that the founder of Luna has done a great job owning up to his mistake and has taken full accountability. He even mentioned that he understands the pain he has caused and that he will work to earn the community's trust again. That said, it's also equally important to take everything that a CEO says with a grain of salt and to do your own research regardless of what they say. Yes, Do Kwon did warn that there was a chance that the token could become worthless, but like I said before, hindsight is 20/20ths. You could say the same thing about any investment. Oh, I almost forgot. I was gone, tell you that it was risky and that you could lose all of your money. But you know, that's just what I want you to think. I don't actually mean it. Trust me, it's a sure thing. In this case, I assume a lot of people looked at Du's background and figured that he knew what he was doing. And hey, in the past he had created successful projects that were backed by some of the largest investors in the world. But in a situation like this, it's still important to look into it yourself. Because just because something worked in the past doesn't guarantee that it'll work in the future. Just ask any sports betting expert who had a winning record last year, but is currently on a losing streak. Third, never forget that no one is guaranteed to make money in the markets. Sure, there are plenty of people who've gotten rich through investing. But for every person that makes money, there's an equal amount of people who lost everything. I know that sounds depressing, but it's the reality of the situation, and it's important to accept that before you start investing. It's also helpful to remember that even the best investors lose money sometimes, and even the best investors have lost money many times throughout their career. I'm not saying this to discourage you from investing, but it is important to acknowledge that nobody has a crystal ball to accurately predict what the markets are going to do next. There are too many variables that are outside of anybody's control, including government policies, natural disasters, disease outbreaks, wars, and the list goes on. And that's why it's important to accept that there will be times where you lose money, and that's okay as long as you are prepared for it and you do UN. Let it affect your overall portfolio. I know that this is easier said than done, but most successful investors stick to a strategy of buy and hold and don't panic sell. Meaning they buy into the markets assuming that it'll go up over time and they hold on to that investment for as long as possible. This allows them to ride out any short-term fluctuations and hopefully grow their money long-term. Finally, never stop learning. Personally, I think the biggest thing that I got out of this is that I now have a better understanding of how the markets work and what to do in a situation like this. Now, yes, it would have been better if I didn't have to learn that lesson the hard way. But now I know that if something seems too good to be true, it probably is. If it's promising an extremely high rate of return in a short amount of time, it's probably a scam. And if it's a brand new project with very little history, it's probably best to stay away. I know that this advice is a lot easier said than done, especially when you see other people seemingly get rich overnight. But the reality is, those are the type of investments that you'll probably hear about long after the initial hype dies down. On the other hand, the investments that you should be cautious of are the ones that are constantly in the news. Those are the ones that everyone's talking about, and those are the ones that tend to draw the most attention. And with that said, I am going to be taking a break from investing for the foreseeable future. While I focus on other areas of my life, I don't know if I'll ever invest in another cryptocurrency again. But I do plan on continuing to invest in the stock market for the long term. And if you're interested in following along, I'll link to my public stock portfolio down below in the description. Feel free to follow along there if you want. So with that said, you guys, thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it. As always, make sure to destroy the like button, subscribe if you haven't already, and until next time.